hello there guys. Today's video I'm going to give you 5 tips to starting to minimize and live a more purposeful and intentional life. So I've been getting a lot of questions on my Facebook page and on YouTube about where to start, which is understandable. If you missed my video, I talked about what minimalism actually is. It's very different than kind of the trend that it's taken on, but with the actual meaning behind it of living intentionally, that kind of comes with the territory of starting to let go and declutter the things, or like the physical things in your life that are distracting you from doing so. But a lot of people don't know where to start. So I have these 5 tips that I came up with for you guys, and I hope that they are helpful if you are looking to start your minimizing journey. So tip number 1 is to tackle one room at a time, and in that one room, tackle one area, space, closet. Just focus on one area at a time and then keep going out from there. It'll make it a lot less daunting than looking at your house going, holy crap, where do I start? Just say, you know what, I'm gonna start in the bedroom. For me, I actually started with my clothes. That was the very first thing that I took on. Tip number 2 is when you are going room by room and space by space, separate by use, might use, and don't use. Typically, when you are going through things to get rid of, it's usually a, do I like this or do I not like this type of mentality, and that's where you bring a lot of emotions into it. So if you instead separate by use, might use, and don't use, you take out the emotion side of it because it's pretty plain and simple. So for that might use category though, there's a few ways to go about deciding whether to get rid of that thing or not get rid of that thing. So there are the things that make sense to keep that are a might use, like say Band-Aids, for instance. That is something that you're not going to be planning to use every day. You may not even use them every week or every month. But when you need them, especially if you have toddlers like me. Where on the other side, you may have an excess of bed sheets or blankets, where yes, you may use those, but you don't need all of them. And so that's where you take the time to choose just the few that you want to have in your house. So tip number 3 is for those of you that have hobbies or maybe homeschooling families like us, and that is to allow yourself one container or space for those things. So say for instance you are a sewer and you have a bin full of different fabrics. That is your one bin that you have, and as long as that bin can stay organized and you're able to get through it without getting frustrated and not being able to find what you want, then that's perfect. If it gets out of control, then it's time to purge it and to let go of some things. Or for instance, for our homeschooling, we have our closet, and as long as my closet in the homeschooling room can stay well organized and everything fits in its place, then it can be in there. So yes, you can be a minimalist and still have a hobby. I think it's important to actually have hobbies, like say you're into knitting or sewing, like I said, painting. Just allow yourself one container or area to keep it organized, and as long as all those things can stay in an organized way and you don't get frustrated trying to go through and find the things you want, then you're good. So tip number 4 is in regards to all the other people in your household, and that is to lead by example. As with anything in life, you can't force somebody to change. You can't force someone to want to do something. And in most cases, it is one person in a family that learns about minimalism first, and they decide that they want to take it on. And it can overwhelm the rest of their family members if they aren't quite ready and they haven't gotten to that step. Like I've talked about, it took me about 2 years to get to a point where I was interested in minimalism to the point that I actually started purging. Now, I'm not trying to be discouraging and telling you it's gonna take your husband or your older kids 2 years before they're interested in this, but leading by example is the best way to really get them interested in it. So obviously I have very young kids, so it's different with them, but I do let them get involved with choosing what things they let go of, and especially be patient with your older kids. I apologize for lighting changes. The sun is just coming out, but be patient with them. You know, they're lacking the emotional maturity to understand things and to fully process the way an adult might when they are presented with the idea of minimalism. And so, as with anything, just don't force it on someone, whether it's your husband, whether it's your kids, whether it's your wife, whatever it may be, or if it's someone in a totally different house, don't force it on them. Just let them come to that conclusion and lead by example. And then the last tip, tip number 5, is going to be one of the hardest ones, and that is if you have to even think about keeping something, the answer is no, you don't need it. If you don't immediately see something and say, yes, that is something that I need and that helps me live purposefully, then it's not something that needs to be in your house. Now, with that said though, there will be times where you immediately have a reaction of, yes, I need that, but it's more of an emotional, yes, I need that, not a, yes, this is helping me live purposefully. So you have to kind of balance that out. But speaking specifically, if you pick something up and you're like, I'm not sure, maybe I'll put this in a maybe pile. If it's in a maybe pile, it should be in a get out of the house pile. So I hope that these tips helped you guys. If you have any more questions, of course, feel free to leave them down below. If there's just a few, I'll answer you. Otherwise, I can do a whole nother video with more beginner tips for you guys. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up and hit that subscribe button if you are new. Here on this channel, I do all kinds of content around motherhood and minimalism, minimalism, and I will see all of your wonderful faces next week. Bye.